This is Things You Might Have Heard. I am Jay Cuban Payne, and welcome to our parasocial relationship. That's the word I'm looking for. Queued up today, 10 news stories from the weekend that you deemed as conversational. You helped us pick these stories for today that cover information, politics, current events, and pop culture news. Now, we're talking Joe Biden, the largest story in the world right now. And oddly enough, we're not talking a lot of Donald Trump, but we'll get to that technically when we get to the U.S. credit rating, plus a bombing at a fertility clinic happening that has a lot of people scratching their heads and coming into a new sort of thought process of someone else to be worried about out there, and 7 other stories that have been vetted by U.S. Good to talk about. We'll explain that vetting process at the end of the headlines being read, but 3 things right now. 1, this is a conversationproject.com, our website home for all the details you need to know about what we do and how we do it. Also, email us as you wish to the conversation inbox at gmail.com. And our sponsor for today, our spotlight sponsor, is Zenni Optical. Check out our sponsors page for other sponsors, but we're putting a spotlight on this. It's a conversationproject.com/Zenni, Zenni, and your next pair of glasses come from them, and they'll take good care of you and care of us as a sponsor with affiliate links there. So that's how that works out. Today is Monday, the 19th of May, 2025. No particular order of the stories other than these are the stories in order we think they should go. Basically, the best story be told. And we'll explain that specifically because our kicker story today, which is normally something that's either funny, offbeat, or just sort of weird, is one of the most important things that we have going on right now. And they really do affect what we are doing, we, United States, and the world right now. Let's get into the first headline. And the biggest one is the big one off the bat. Former President Biden is diagnosed with aggressive form of prostate cancer. Joe Biden is 82 years old. He's been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer that has metastasized to his bones. The diagnosis was made following medical evaluations prompted by urinary symptoms. His cancer has a Gleason score of 9, which basically means it's a pretty high-grade tumor. Despite the severity, the cancer is hormone sensitive, which allows for effective management through hormone therapy. Biden and his family are currently reviewing treatment options with physicians. And while the metastatic prostate cancer is not curable, it is treatable. And the biggest issue is because it is moved just from his prostate also to his bones. Since it's actually moved from one spot to another, it's harder to treat, although it can be treated and lived with as opposed to cured or killed. The hormone-sensitive cancers like Biden's can respond well to hormone therapy, potentially extending his life expectancy by several years. Advancements in treatment over past decades have improved outcomes with patients with advanced prostate cancer. Of course, lots of words from well wishes from many folks across the political spectrum. Donald Trump and his wife Melania sent out a message that was pretty quick, pretty simple. Vice President Kamala Harris, as well as former Vice President and of course former President Barack Obama, also sending well wishes were J.D. Vance and of course Marjorie Taylor Greene, who talked about losing her father to cancer. And these people, many folks across the spectrum, put out these messages saying, all politics aside, no one should have to suffer from these things, and they wish the best wishes and speedy recovery and long-lasting life to Joe Biden. They don't have to agree with his politics, but they do have to agree that cancer basically sucks. Now, part of the problem, and there is a problem with this, was the diagnosis came in on Friday. And on Friday was a lot of hype for 2 new books coming out on President Biden and his decline that was going on as he was wrapping up his first and only term as president, and how it was hidden from the public and from many other people in his actual orbit, including his cabinet, didn't know what was going so bad. And one of the biggest things that CNN had to kind of mea culpa with was the fact that they did a lot of hype on a book that's co-written by Jake Tapper, one of their big anchors, and he did a lot of pushing on what was happening on that. Also, last week there was a release of the audio from Biden, who talked to Robert Hur, who was doing some investigation on the documents case, basically trying to figure out what was going on with the documents they found in his garage. And he, at the end of his conclusion, said that Joe Biden did pull some documents, but essentially he was just an old guy with some memory losses and just sort of didn't know what was going on. He grabbed some things. He didn't know what they were. They just sat there dormant and were basically nothing going on, which Biden complained about. Biden also complained about this book, and he's on his tour to talk about how he's not declining. And while they're basically hyping the decline books, these books that many people are calling hit jobs and trash books, he's dealing with another issue. So Godspeed to Joe Biden with all the care he's going to get, because he's a former president. People are going to do what they can to help him through this. As we've said, no cure for what he has at this point because it just has moved so fast. But there will be ways to treat it, remedy it, and there is a good chance, a very good chance, that he gets a extended life from this going forward. He is already 82 years old, and we're not going to go to the good run type stuff right now because that's not where we're going. But there is a chance, the good chance, that he can live much, much longer and much healthier, if you will, that word life, as things progress. The biggest thing to worry about this is screening. This is a chance for men to remember your prostate screening is important, especially for older men. One of the things that people think maybe the issue with this is that because Joe Biden is an older man, he may not be getting his prostate exams as regularly as possible, which is how this got missed, if you will. If he would have been elected president or reelected, he'd be 4 or 5 months into this term, and it'd be another serious issue on what we're going to do for the actual succession of Joe Biden, especially since now the question marks have a shorter period of question marks. Not just will he die of natural causes at older age, but now will this thing actually consume him faster? Godspeed, well wishes, many prayers, and power of positivity going out to Joe Biden in this fight. The fight seems to be over in Jersey, as the New Jersey Transit and the union have reached a deal to end their strike and resume service tomorrow. The 3-day strike, New Jersey Transit and the Brotherhoods of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen bleak, if you will, reaching a tentative agreement. The strike began on Friday with halting rail services across New Jersey, affecting about 100,000 folks throughout the weekend. Governor Phil Murphy announced a deal on Sunday, noting that while the agreement is pending ratification, so they still have to talk about it, marks the end of the state's first rail strike in over 4 decades. Train service is scheduled to resume at 12:01 a.m. Tuesday, literally midnight tomorrow morning, as New Jersey Transit officials stated that the 24-hour delay is necessary to conduct safety inspections and reposition equipment. Things not moving for a weekend need to be put back in place, make sure that no lapses, everything is checklist and ready to go. In the interim, expanded bus services and park and ride options have been available through capacity is limited because there's only so many buses and so many people can park and ride. Commuters are encouraged to work from home one more day today, if possible. This tentative agreement includes wage increases for engineers, addressing primary issue of the strike. No raises for quite some time. With specific terms not being disclosed to us, they're still being talked over. The agreement awaits approval from the union members and New Jersey Transit Board. Union representatives emphasize that wage adjustments aim to improve retention and recruitment without necessitating any fare increases. Basically, they don't want to raise the prices, but their folks do need better pay to get their job done. It disrupted travel for tens of thousands, of course, particularly those commuting to New York City. Getting out of Middle Jersey to New York has been a problem. Alternative transportation options, buses, ferries, and of course, ride shares have been there, but experienced overcrowding because there's only so many buses, ferries, and cars to ride in. But despite the inconvenience, many commuters are basically supporting the engineers, saying they need better wages and were able to deal with a weekend, or at least a Friday and a Monday, of issues with work, getting to it for themselves so that the engineers can get better jobs, better pay, and better conditions for their work. Before the Joe Biden story overtook everything, and sort of in the middle of the story for the Mexican ship, we'll get to them in a moment, this story grew and grew and grew, happening on the 17th, an early story that turned into, when details came about, a bigger issue, something that we probably can fathom. The actual headline for story number 3 is FBI investigating California facility clinic explosion as possible act of terrorism. They basically have stated it that it is. On May 17th, this happening on Saturday, a car bomb detonated outside American Redundant Centers in Palm Springs, California, killing a suspected bomber and injuring 4 others. The explosion caused significant damage to the clinic, but spared the IVF lab and stored embryos, as no patients were present at the time. The FBI identified the suspect as 25-year-old guy, Edward Barkus of 29 Palms. Authorities reported that Barkus held nihilistic and anti-natal beliefs, opposing human procreation. That seems like a pretty big deal when the purpose of humans is to procreate, make more of us. He left behind writings and a 30-minute audio recording expressing these views. Investigators believed his attempt to live stream the attack was thwarted. Video could not be successfully uploaded to the system while it was going. So that's one thing that we have less of, one for some proof and one for just the morality of the whole issue. In coordination with local law, the FBI is executing a search warrant for Baucus's residence, discovering many things, finding explosives, firearms, and all the things you expect from someone in this situation. Described by officials as one of the largest bombing scenes in Southern California in recent times, it's prompted increased security measures around reproductive health facilities. The attack occurs amid heightened tensions surrounding reproductive rights in the United States. While attacks on abortion clinics have been more common, the incident marks a rare act of violence against a fertility clinic. This is where things really get interesting, as Gavin Newsom, the governor, and Attorney General Pam Bondi have to deal with this attack. But essentially, no one seemed to know that there was an issue with people attacking fertility clinics, attacking abortion clinics where people are actually ending terms of pregnancies has been a long-standing thing for a while. But attacking fertility clinics where people are trying to make it easier to have babies when they can't is something that I could never fathom until right now. In fact, many of the commentators that were going live on this thing as it was going through talking about this stuff said they'd never heard of anything like this, attacking a fertility clinic as opposed to an abortion clinic. The motivations have been stated, so if they are what they are, they're there. But the fact that there's a movement, a front of extremist networks that actually want to not have us have more children is bewildering. We'll learn more about this in later days, and whether this will become a larger issue for targeting of terrorism, we shall see. The other big story popping up on Sunday, late Saturday it happening, and Sunday waking up to the story as more details come about it with the Mexican tall ship hitting the Brooklyn Bridge, killing 2 of the crew members on the ship. This happened late in the evening on Saturday, going into Sunday, where a Mexican naval training vessel collided with the Brooklyn Bridge in New York City. The ship's mast struck the underside of the bridge, leading to deaths of 2 crew members and injuries at least 19 others. Now, this is a big old ship with sails on it, so you have that going forward. Not your normal view, but it happened. The deceased have been identified as America Yamez Sanchez, the 20-year-old cadet from Veracruz, and Adair G.R. Marcos, a seasoned sailor from Oaxaca. They were both atop the mast during the collision. They literally took the direct collision of the mast into the bridge. Preliminary reports suggest that the ship lost power shortly before the incident, causing it to drift uncontrollably onto the bridge. Turbulent waters and strong currents may have contributed to the difficulty in its maneuvering as well. Emergency services responded pretty quickly, and the injured were transferred to local hospitals pretty quickly as well. The NTSB, along with Mexican and U.S. authorities, are investigating the incident to determine the exact cause and assess any potential safety protocols that lapsed. The loss of power, the big deal on this issue. The 300-foot-long training ship was a global goodwill tour and been docked in New York since May 13th. Despite the collision, Brooklyn Bridge, no major structural damage, reopened to traffic after inspections a few hours later. A healthy discussion in my feeds back and forth on this story. This is something I posted early on in the weekend, but someone brought it up late on Sunday. It turned into a larger discussion back and forth on the whys. I'll talk about my thoughts on the whys in a moment. But the headline for story number 5, Maryland governor vetoes slavery reparations study, says states should focus on action. So that's where it turns into sort of where it's a little squirrely. But Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, vetoed a bill that would have established a commission to study potential slavery reparations in the state. In the veto letter, Moore acknowledged the legislation efforts, but argued that the issue has been extensively studied over the past 3 decades. Essentially, we don't need another study. He emphasized that the need to focus on actionable measures such as narrowing the racial wealth gap, expanding homeownership and supporting Black entrepreneurs, and addressing disparities in education and food security. Working on things that are direct case of, if you want to make things fairer for minorities and Blacks, let's work on these things, not so much handing out cash. The veto bill was a top priority for legislative Black caucus in the state and the largest Black caucus in any state legislature at all. The caucus expressed deep disappointment, stating that the veto blocked historic legislation aimed at addressing these harms for enslavement to address things in the moment now, as well as to the past and the actual history. The bill passed both legislative chambers with veto-proof majorities, which was amazing. Discussions about potential overrides are underway to basically pass it anyway. Can they actually get past this veto? Can they override this veto and make it into law, regardless of Governor Moore's talks? Decision comes amid national debates on reparations. States like California and New York are playing this up for quite a while. They've had a lot of money in play for these things, and a lot of people in those states who have been pushing for this for a while, but not quite the way to work it out there to basically make it an address on the legacy of slavery. We'll see what happens for those. Although California was not a state and New York was not a slave state, they still have issues on the books for these things. Advocates argue that the studies further are necessary to make sure a consensus and groundwork are built for the thought process of reparations. Others believe the immediate action is required to address existing disparities. Just do stuff right now. A package of plans and policies are in the next legislature that Governor Moore is basically putting into place to address these racial disparities directly. That is not a actual reparations bill. These are going to support Black-owned business, put more money into historically Black colleges and universities, and initiatives to promote economic equity. Now, my take on this one, like I said, this turned into a discussion on one of the chats I have with some folks. If you remember me talking about the In the Black podcast and Big O and the folks who do that one, you should check it out. Go to look, search In the Black podcast and check that out. Look for the clips on YouTube, see what they're doing back and forth. But he brought up the question saying that, and he lives near the area, so this is something he's been watching for a while. He said it was interesting, and many people commented. My comments, two things on this one. Wes Moore has been one of the rising stars in the Democratic Party, and people want him to run for president. They want him to run for president. This is beyond the guy that a decade or so ago just came out of the Army, wrote a book about two guys named Wes Moore from the same spot, one essentially being a gang guy and him himself, how they went to two different paths and their meeting of each other and what that turned into. This guy is a serious player in politics and seems like a basically good guy and a good governor doing good work. And for most cases, in the partisan matter, going back and forth, people can't seem to throw anything at him that can really tarnish him from the right side, from the Republican side, because he gets stuff done. They'll find something if he runs for something larger, but he gets stuff done. Now, he says he's not running for president. He'd be a young candidate going forward, going to take over, the party, if you will, going forward. But I say two reasons why this didn't work out. He may believe what we've basically said. Reparations, the actual reparations, spending money for the past sins of other people to pay people now, is something he doesn't quite believe in, as in it doesn't actually fix anything. He thinks putting money into programs or putting effort into programs for the disadvantaged, for minorities, is something good. Not just saying here's a check to make us all feel better. It's a sin that is pretty much there, but the way to address that sin in reparations is not worth the effort. Or maybe he does believe in reparations, maybe believes in all these things, period, but he actually is running for president and he knows that reparations is going to kill his actual chances. He keeps saying he's not running, but he keeps going to the places where people who run for things show up early in life. So we'll see what happens. Maybe he's actually running and doesn't want this to get in the way of what's going on and wants to make sure he has a way to back away from the reparations being a question for him. Or maybe he truly believes that reparations are not the way. The way of the Conversation Project is pretty simple. We put out news articles every 50 minutes or so on our feeds, and you engage in them. And we give you those stories that you say are more engaging into things you might not have heard. We do that 5 days a week. But in order to make sure we have more people to do this for, we need more people watching this video here. So if you're watching this video with us live, we thank you so much for that. We ask you to like the video if you like the video. If you don't like the video, that's understandable. But if you enjoy the news coverage, we call ourselves your tertiary news source. We're not supposed to be your main news source because some of the stories we give to you here are pretty bizarre. But we give you pretty much good coverage of the important things because they're conversational and some things that are out there that are worthy of chatting up. So if you like it here, That means they have the right patch of stories, the right amount of commentary, and hopefully a fairly low amount of glitches going forward. I'm basically a solo guy, so I can only do so much with what I have. If you like it, I know I'm doing well. If you like it, the algorithm thinks I'm doing well, and it'll share it with more people. If you know people who would enjoy this type of actual news coverage, or they might want to hate watch us, that's fine as well. Share it with those people and let them like and share as well. And if you're not getting this naturally in your feed, if this was shared to you by a person, or you got it into some algorithm pick and you decided the thumbnail was great and you wanted to watch it and you're watching it, subscribe so you get us directly in your feed. I'm not even asking for notifications, although that helps. But subscribe so you can come find us. We're easy to find in your feeds as you go. We'll talk more about the feeds on X and on Facebook in a bit when we go talking about how we actually put the feeds together. That gives us the news stories. But we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on X with this live show. We're on other places. Go to our website, thisisconversationproject.com, and find us on TikTok so you can watch the hot takes. Find us in our audio podcast, which is the audio of this coming down the feed after we do this one and clean it up. And of course, our email newsletter, which is just the links. So you go straight to the stories. No commentary, no actual face or voice, but it's there for you all the time. But we really do need you to like, share, and subscribe to this here video so we get more people engaged and grow what we call the News Nerd Nation. We go back to the news and story number 6 for the day. This is a story that did have to survive the full weekend, and it's one of a weekend of a whole lot of things. This one had a lot of early engagement, so it was able to withstand some of the things that popped up later in the weekend. Going to Ohio, where the judge calls for leak probe in the Bryan Kohberger murder trial. Judge Stephen Hippler is seeking to find what's going on in the trial of Bryan Kohberger, ordering an investigation into potential violation of gag orders after confidential information appeared in a recent episode of NBC's Dateline. So Lester Holt is leaving the main news for NBC, going to Dateline, and he's getting work done pretty quickly as they had a nice big episode on the trial in Idaho that a whole lot of information that had not been disclosed to the public yet until TV showed it on May the 9th. Details about Kohberger's internet search history and surveillance footage related to the November 22 killings of 4 University Idaho students were showed for a live television audience that had not been presented anywhere else prior. The response to this, Hippler is instructing both prosecution and defense teams to submit its list of individuals who had access to leaked information, including staff, law enforcement, and consultants, emphasizing the importance of preserving all communications with media or external parties concerning the case. The judge indicated that he is open to appointing a special prosecutor to identify the sources of the leak. With the leak of information, there are now concerns about potential impact of the fairness of the trial. And of course, jury impartiality, tampering, if you will, because if more people know about the incidents out there because it's on the internet, it could help make the jury bias against something or bias not against them. Go either way based on what they want to see in the depiction as said in the media. Because the true crime nature of the story, they want to make this as grisly as possible, and that may make juries see it a bit more grisly than it may be, or more grisly than they thought in the first place. Hippler noted that such violations could complicate the jury selection process and increase trial costs, underscoring the necessity of maintaining the integrity of the judicial process. Here's the deal. Bryan Kohberger is a former criminal justice graduate student who is charged in the fatal stabbings of 4 people: Ethan Chopin, Zana Cardolo, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Goncalves. Apologies for that. The incident occurred in an off-campus residence in Moscow, in Idaho, November 2022. Kohberger pleaded not guilty. His trial is scheduled to begin in August. Prosecutors have announced their intention to seek the death penalty if he is convicted in this crime. WNBA is in full swing as the season is open, and a big opener between the rivals turned stars who make it a bigger rivalry with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. That means the Sky and the Fever had a big game to open their season this year. But an investigation is going into some racist comments against uh, in the game during this game against Angel Reese, towards Angel Reese, should say. WNBA is investigating these allegations, racial comments directed at Chicago Sky forward Angel Reese during the game with the Fever on the 17th. The incident occurred during the 93-58 loss for the Sky, in which Indiana's Caitlin Clark committed a flagrant foul on Reese, leading to a brief confrontation between both players. Both athletes downplayed the on-court altercation. The league is focusing on reports of racially charged remarks from fans in the arena. WNBA issued a statement condemning the racism, hate, and discrimination, affirming that such behaviors has no place in the league. And the Sky and the Fever, both organizations, expressed support for the investigation, emphasizing their commitment to provide a safe environment for all players. WNBA's Player Association also released the statement urging the thorough investigation through the league's no space for hate policy. Now, this has gone on the rivalry since college. Of course, the LSU and Iowa of fans, as they grew to love, hate, love the two, based on your side of the actual based on your side of the actual rivalry. Then they both were drafted last year, going to the WNBA to do on out Chicago and Indiana, where now they're still picking on the rivalry. But when All-Star games happen and they get a chance to be together, they put their things aside and they can work very well as two good players. The recent incident has highlighted concerns about racial bias and treatment of players going forward. Now, the biggest issue before the racism became the issue was the flagrant foul. And did Caitlin Clark get the benefit of the doubt here because she's Caitlin Clark? That was where things were going forward, and the heated exchange between the two because two rivals, two players got into that one. Unfortunately, there is still, if you hadn't figured out yet, a lot of underlying and overlying racist remarks and things in professional sports. And for the WNBA, there is no exception. They have a policy against this, so they're going to work to that in the actual investigation. But we'll see how this plays out. Right, as we know, no real super hate. There's now professional hate, but no real hate between the two players, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. They are professionals. They know they bring in eyeballs, so they know what they need to do. But in the case where the fans may have yelled some things at Reese in this incident, no mas. This is not the biggest story of the weekend, but you guys really got into it. So we're putting in here over other stories. Foo Fighters part ways with drummer Josh Freese to go in a different direction. So this was announced on Friday, the 16th of May, where he is no longer the drummer for the Foo Fighters. The band informed him earlier the week that the decision was to go in a different direction, their words, without providing the specific reason for the direction they were going into. He joined the band in 2023 following the death of longtime drummer Taylor Hawkins and expressed his surprise and disappointment, but emphasized his support for the band's decision. He's now not bitter about it, but he's, wish he were still there. In his 2-year tenure, he performed with the Foo Fighters on the 2024 Everything or Nothing at All tour, supporting their 11th studio album, But Here We Are. And although he did not record on the album, frontman Dave Grohl handed the drum duties to Freese for the live performances, going that one. Dave Grohl is a drummer as well, so he played the drum for the album, but Freese played him live and basically pushed forward to support the album. So it was a pretty big part of the stage show going forward. There was no drummer in place when they did this, so they had to go with that one. As for now, the Foo Fighters have not publicly commented on Freese's departure. Their next scheduled performance is in October in Singapore Grand Prix, so they have a lot of time to find a drummer. The band has not announced who's taking over the responsibilities, who's got the sticks next, but we'll see what happens. The news of Freese's departure has some reactions from fans and fellow musicians. Some are shocked and support Freese. Some just say, sometimes you got to move on. It just happens. Things just work on for those things. As we said, they're not playing again for a real performance, a live performance until October. So plenty of time to go with that one. Freese is optimistic about his career and optimistic about his playing. He still supports the Foo Fighters, and may pop up here and there if they need a fill in someplace. But he's taking it with stride. He's taking it with humor, taking it as he can, because the only way he can take it. But as of right now, Foo Fighters are lacking a live drummer, unless Dave's going to play guitar in his lap and drum at the same time. Maybe he can do that. Another story that's not high on the list of actual import, but pretty important as, I guess, our zeitgeist of famous people and people who are influencers is Mark Cuban, who has actually left Shark Tank after a long time run in the show. He had a concluded the 14-year tenure on the show with a finale for this season that had a lot of people basically sending him off in great ways. The last episode that he was on appeared on May 16th, on Friday. He cited a desire to spend more time with his teenage children as a primary reason for his departure. One of the reasons why he's leaving a lot of his bigger, more extensive businesses going forward, essentially not doing so much stuff with the Mavericks, leaving away from his schedule for filming at Shark Tank, things like that, is because his kids are teenagers. He wants to spend more time with them because they're not babies anymore. He has to now deal with their schedules, and so their schedules involve him being home more and not being away in these long jaunts. Show's filming schedule from June to September basically conflicted with family activities. All the stuff that happens for your family is in those times, so he had to step away to do this one. 85 companies he invested in on Shark Tank during his time. Beatbox, Beverages, Dude Wipes, two big ones. Of course, the one that's gotten all the talk these days, that basically the worst one out there, was the breathometer, that, as my article says, did not meet expectations, and that is an understatement in that one as well. Cuban acknowledged the challenges and rewards of supporting entrepreneurs, emphasizing the importance of mentorship and guiding people beyond financial backing. It wasn't just give them cash, but help them through the ways to get better or to learn how to scale back when things didn't get good. Tributes from fellow sharks and entrepreneurs that he supported were in the final episode. They expressed gratitude, and he expressed gratitude for relationships built and opportunities to contribute to entrepreneurial community. A quote from Cuban: "This show changed me. I think I changed the show, and I think we are together as sharks changed America." He's got some other things he can do, more working to do from home, if you will. His Cost Plus Drugs initiative, which is basically mail order drug pharmaceutical teams, and of course, still in sports investments with Harvard Sports Partners Fund, which puts minority stakes into smaller professional teams out there to keep them running going forward. So we can do more things as he's doing more shark stuff in a way to keep things going, but doing it from home while he can stick around with his family. This is our 10th story. This is usually our kicker story. For Monday, we have 10 stories. For the rest of the week, it's 8 stories. But our final story of the statute is usually something that's either silly or maybe irrelevant, or something that's just so out there that it's there. Or like last Monday's 10th story, it was the only way to sneak in Amber Heard, because you guys blew her up over the weekend to talk about Amber Heard and her baby, yet we didn't want to talk about Amber Heard. Here's a story that's sort of a kick in the pants to us, and it's the only thing we have that's so much Trump adjacent. Let me get into it, and because this is actually a bit more serious than normally we do for a kicker style. Moody's downgrades U.S. credit rating after soaring national debt. The downgrade from Moody's of the U.S. sovereign credit rating from AAA to AA1, citing persistent fiscal deficits and rising interest payments. This move aligns with Moody's other major rating agencies and other folks who previously downgraded U.S. credit ratings. Moody's is the gold standard, and now that they've got us down, we have issues. This downgrade reflects concerns over the nation's growing debt burden and the lack of effective measures to address it. That means it's everyone's problem, but the problem that has to be fixed right now is in the hands of President Donald Trump. The downgrade has led to increased borrowing costs, with the yield on 30-year Treasury bonds rising above 5% for the first time since November 2023. Stock markets have reacted negatively, and the U.S. dollar has weakened against the major currencies. We'll see what happens come Monday today, because this downgrade happened on Friday. We'll see if it can rebound or what's going to happen throughout the week. Analysts express concern over long-term impacts on the economy. The Biden administration actually criticized the downgrade from the past, because folks in that administration said it's basically due to congressional Republican extremism and function. With Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent right now is blaming the Biden administration, the past, for fiscal policies and the downgrade. Essentially, we inherited this thing, and in 4 months we try to fix it, and it's gotten worse. Although the downgrade to the actual rating didn't happen until the 4 months that they got in the office and the things they've been doing going forward. Now, Moody projects the federal deficits could rise to nearly 9% of GDP by 2035, driven by increased interest payments and entitlement spending, although they're trying to cut that spending to fix for the tax cut they want to put in place. Agency actually emphasized the need for effective fiscal reforms to stabilize the nation's financial trajectory. Basically, what we all need to know is we need to cut back on things and fix things and not give away money to people who don't necessarily need it. And if we're going to give away money, make sure people that get it that actually need it. Making that happen is, of course, the question. The Conversation Project, as we say, it's about conversations on news stories, articles that are out there for you to engage in. Help us pick the stories going forward. This is not just a dialogue of what's top of the news, me watching, way too early with Ali Vitale and saying, oh, that's our top stories. I got it. That's what we're talking about. This is me actually going through with you and taking the full day of going through the news stories, doing my own research, if you will, scouring the aggregators and the news headline sites and putting out various stories for you to engage in all day long. And the next day, opening up my browser, seeing what's out there, racking and stacking them based on what you say and giving you the ones that you say are most engaging. 3 stories that are queued up right now, and some of them may be kind of old by the time we get there. American Idol season 23 crowns a new winner. That might not be something you care about tomorrow, but we'll see if you care about it enough now to talk about it, because there will be more talk about it today. Trump tax bill passes in key U.S. House committee vote. That's something that happened late-ish last night, but the saga still continues going forward in this one. So we'll probably talk more update on this one if you want this one into the actual feeds for tomorrow. And the reward increase for capture of escaped New Orleans inmates at 7 remain on the lam. The numbers went back and forth from whether 11 or 10 people escaped. I think the official number is 10. Obviously, 3 have been captured. They're now going to give more money for information for these people who they may believe have gotten out of the parish, maybe gotten in state by now, since it's been days since they've been on the lam. These 3 stories and any other story that you want to engage in can be yours to talk about tomorrow. You just simply engage in them on Facebook, facebook.com/This Conversation Project, or x.com/th_conversation. And you tell us by your engagement of the story if it's worthy of chatting up. Now, we will take the top ranking stories of the day. For today, we took the top ranking stories of the weekend, about 50 stories of the 90 or so we got. And then we looked at them, sifted them out, and picked 10 stories to present to you. Tomorrow, it'll be 8 stories presented from about 16 stories from the 30 or so stories presented to you today. So if you want a particular story in there to talk about, this is about what you deem conversational. Check out what we have in the feed, see a couple stories that are there, like them, engage in them, reply to them. And the more engagement the story gets, better chance we have of yakking up tomorrow. There's a good chance of yakking up a good sponsor every single day. And today we're yakking up Zenni Optical because, one, I was running a little late today and didn't have time to really shift into the next one. And 2, Zenni Optical is one we want to put a little extra love to because they've been one of our longest supporters for all my endeavors, including being a sponsor from all the iterations, basically from very beginning iterations of what the Conversation Project is now. From the 8 things to talk about newsletter, they were initial sponsor, had way back when, and I've been loving them all this time because I've been using them all this time myself personally. I have new glasses that will be coming soon. I have to actually put the order in, but I have a new prescription. It's been 3 years since I've actually filled a new prescription, so these things don't work as well as they should. So I got to get new sunglasses to stay in the car, new glasses to wear around and see, and we're going to get progressives so I can not have to take them on and off. We're going to see how that works going forward. And Zenni Optical is going to help me out with the cost and with the technology. They have all the glasses you can think you want can be there. Like I said, I'm getting sunglasses, I'm getting progressives, I'm going to get a tint on the regular progressive on the regular glasses so that it helps with reading, and I'm going to get them at a great price. My lenses will be a great price because they make good lenses. They're not cheap, stupid plastic that break all the time. And the frames that I get are still $695, and they're not terrible looking frames. They're simple, basic frames. They're still $695 for the same frames. They've been that way for forever. You can get other great frames for starting at price or more extravagant, more designer frames you want to. You can also get a blue blocking lenses or transition style sunglasses lenses or really hard lenses for sports goggles, things like that. They'll take good care of your eyes, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whether you're a child, with great prices going forward. Now, we need you to use our affiliate link because if you use our link, we get a small commission back for the buy. This is a conversationproject.com/Zenni, Zenni. This is a conversationproject.com/Zenni, Zenni Optical, for thousands of options and frames, styles, and for every occasion and personality. Plus, the lenses are spectacular. They won't cost you anything super extra. They're low cost in their way. For anti-reflective coatings and photochromic lenses and progressives, whatever you're looking for, a fraction of what you pay other places, and 100% guaranteed. If you're not satisfied, send them back. They'll send you your money back. It's that simple. Go to this. It's a conversationprod.com/Zenni and check them out today and see the world more clearly with style and savings. Good eyes on your eyes, good eyes on your eyes, good glasses on your eyes, on your face, and more money in your pocket from Zenni Optical. Now, it is time to talk about us, the Conversation Project. If you're looking for news that reflects what people care about, we are going to help you out with that one. At our website, learn all about us and our background at the website, thisisconversationproject.com. We have conversations that matter on the news that is there. We cut through the noise and allow you to see what stories actually seem like they're worthy of talking about. So last week we talked Amber Heard. You guys seem to hate talk about Amber Heard, but we did it because she was engaging. It's what happened. Today we talked about the credit rating, which is a big deal. We talked about Mark Cuban, which was a big deal as well. And we talked about Joe Biden and his cancer diagnosis. Many people jumped onto that one pretty quickly as a very big story. Those are things that you guys engaged in to tell us we're worthy of talking about. Our website, thisisconversationproject.com, our home for all things. You can check it out for past episodes and, of course, all the background you need to get from us, as in our origin story. Also links to our partnership page and to our sponsorship page as well. All those things are there at the website. Email us as you will at the conversation inbox at gmail.com, the conversation inbox at gmail.com. You can question anything we are doing. You can bring up more discussion. We can go back and forth in email discussions back and forth. And the feeds we talk about are Facebook and X, facebook.com/thisisconversationproject and x.com/th_conversation, where you can find us posting news articles every 50 minutes or so all day long. And you can engage in those stories, which gives us reasons to chat up those stories. It's not just me going over a list of stories saying, oh, these things are trending, let's do these right now. These are stories that the people that I gave a shot to talk about want to talk about, and we're going to do the best to pick those stories. We do that every single weekday here for the Conversation Projects, things you might not have heard. And with this weekday, this Monday, we're done. The show is over. Thank you so much for joining us for this longer edition. I think it was a longer edition today because I got a bit verbose in some of the news articles, which is fine for the hot takes when we cut them up, but maybe it gets longer for these live things. Tomorrow will be much closer to 30 minutes, trust me, instead of the 42 minutes we had today. So it is what it is. So we're going to wrap up pretty quickly. Thank you so much for joining us for the show. Love you, mean it. Follow us on our feeds. Consider being a partner, and make sure you're just going to do your best to have a good Monday. There are good things out there to look for, so do your best to find one. And then you don't find one the next day. They're out there. As I said, love you, mean it. We'll do this again tomorrow morning for another edition of Things You Might Not Have Heard.